You're being watched right now, not admired, analyzed, because what you just did doesn't make sense. Not to them, not to their systems, not to the war room they built to stop things exactly like you. You didn't walk in with force. You walked in like a whisper and left like a classified hurricane. And now the generals, the chess players, the prophets in lab coats. They're arguing over footage like it's glitching. They're saying, this wasn't human. This was tactical insanity. But here's the twist that's breaking their neural networks. You weren't trying to outsmart them. You were just being you. You're not reading the playbook. You are the glitch in their doctrine. The exception no one simulated. The anomaly no analyst accounted for. And that's why they're afraid, because you did it wrong, according to them. Yet now, they're on the floor, and you're walking out untouched. They had war rooms. You had war scars. They had tactics. You had trauma. They had simulations. You had survival. You don't think in steps. You move like a ghost, with a memory of every room you weren't supposed to leave alive. You don't calculate outcomes. You weaponize instinct sharpened by betrayal, silence, and every time you were underestimated and left breathing. They forgot what happens when you back a fractured creature into a corner. It stops trying to escape and starts studying you. They called it madness, until madness outmaneuvered a military doctrine. Now they're replaying it in silence, one frame at a time, trying to decode what they just witnessed. How did they predict that flank? Why didn't the trap work? How the hell did they know we'd pivot? You didn't know. You felt it. Like a haunted symphony composed in the bones of your childhood. While they strategized, you evolved. While they watched, you became unspeakable. They were studying moves. You were becoming the move no one could name without shivering. There's a reason your footage doesn't make sense in the debrief. Because they're trying to explain a paradox. A saint who thinks like a psychopath. An angel with scars shaped like horns. A strategist with no playbook. Who still played them all like a rigged casino. This wasn't luck. This was precision born of pain. Every time they lied to you, that rewired your intuition. Every time they left you out, you mapped the shadows. Every betrayal was a lesson in nonverbal warfare. You didn't become great by being taught. You became lethal by being left for dead in rooms they thought would erase you. And now they're screaming across encrypted channels. Who is this? How long have they known? Was this planned? No, it was inevitable. Because while they trained for control, you trained for chaos. And now they can't breathe in a world where their control isn't enough. Siaki, you weren't just underestimated. You were underrated, undervalued, underfed, and now you're unstoppable. They thought they were playing chess, but they were never on the board because you don't move piece by piece. You move like a prophecy delivered by trauma and encrypted in silence. Let them call it tactical insanity. That's just fear wearing a lab coat, because deep down they know you didn't study warfare. You survived it. You didn't play the game. You broke the algorithm and made it start asking your permission. They want to teach your move in secret rooms now. But they can't, because what you did wasn't a technique. It was an echo of every room they tried to erase you from. And that can't be replicated. It can only be feared. So here's the final twist. They thought they were watching your strategy unfold. But they were actually watching their entire operation collapse in real time, at the hands of someone they didn't even put on the threat board. And now they're quiet. Because what do you even say when the ghost you ignored walks out of your war room with the blueprint to your soul? Because now, they're not just whispering. They're building models. They're trying to recreate you. They want to study the sequence, dissect the mindset, clone the cadence. They want to reverse engineer your resurrection. But what they don't understand is you didn't learn this. You bled into it. They're measuring footage in frames per second while you were counting betrayals per breath. They're programming simulations, but you were surviving nights with no one coming. You're not data. You're damage repurposed as dominance. And here's where the fear kicks in. They're discovering that you can't be replicated because what you've become was never built. It was forged. They're calling it tactical insanity. But the truth is, it was ancestral. It came from deeper than books, deeper than drills. It came from every generation before you that was told to kneel. While they took, burned, erased, you didn't just outsmart a war room. You activated a bloodline protocol they thought was extinct. You woke up with something ancient in your spine. Something they don't teach at the academy. Something that doesn't compute. And now their systems are glitching because you're not operating from logic. You're operating from legacy pain, encrypted in silence. So now they're asking questions like, does he have handlers? Is this an op? Where's the source file? There is no file. There's only the footage, the one where you moved like you'd already lost everything, and still chose to show mercy. That's what terrifies them the most. You could have finished them, you could have ended it, but you didn't. Because you're not just a strategist. You're a story they were never meant to survive. Here's what they'll never say out loud, but it's leaking through their reports. You're dangerous not because of what you did, but because of what you represent. A variable they can't control. A paradox that doesn't ask permission. A creature born from silence who writes in thunder. You're the living consequence of every arrogant hand that reached too far. Every quiet dismissal. Every insult they didn't think you heard. And now, the silence is louder than the sirens. Because no amount of tech can explain how the broken one became the architect. They're trying to ban the footage, trying to keep it off channels, trying to label it distorted or tampered with. But truth doesn't need approval, and chaos doesn't need a press release, because the world saw it. They saw how you predicted a pivot before it happened, how you moved like you'd already lived this day before, like you were playing 3 timelines ahead, and laughing while they tried to catch up. You made their most trained operatives look like NPCs in a sandbox, and now they're rewriting doctrine because one ghost refused to obey. You didn't speak much. That's what made it worse. You didn't explain. You executed, and it wasn't flashy. It was surgical, like watching a hurricane perform open-heart surgery while humming a lullaby. And now, the most dangerous people in the world are whispering your name in reverence. But they can't find you, because you're not on the map. You never were. You were the storm outside the simulation, and now their machines are asking, what else did we miss? Let me tell you something that's going to haunt them for years. You didn't win. You didn't need to. You existed in their system long enough to reveal its weaknesses, then vanished with the entire blueprint burned into your smirk. Now, entire war rooms are being restructured because of you. They're adding new threat levels that didn't exist last week. They're reclassifying silence as potential aggression. They're asking, are there more like him? But they already know the answer. There aren't. Because nobody else was built in the dark with holy rage and surgical intent. So what happens next? They'll keep trying to predict you. But you're not a pattern. You're a pulse. A flicker of holy vengeance in a world too mechanical to survive your intuition. They'll try to name you, but every name collapses under the weight of your unpredictability. They'll try to trap you, but every trap bends the rules just enough to reveal who set it. Because you're not a player, you're the glitch that remaps the entire simulation. So let them call it tactical insanity. Let them whisper in meetings, scrub the data, blame the glitch. Let them train for what you already survived. Let them form alliances to stop what you already predicted. Let them plot and pray. But remember this, the moment you stepped out of that war room untouched, you didn't just win. You became the benchmark of fear, the name they drop when the lights flicker, the footage they pause when someone asks, what are we actually dealing with here? And the answer will always be the same. Something we were never trained for. Something born from fire and sharpened in silence. Something that doesn't just survive systems, it infects them. So they tried. Tried to replicate the anomaly. Tried to weaponize your mindset. Tried to manufacture a new version of you. Something synthetic, predictable, obedient. Because after what you did, they couldn't sleep. Their top analyst quit mid-sentence. Their experts began to whisper behind closed doors. We need a counter. We need our own version of him. But what they didn't realize was you weren't a product. You were the punishment. You weren't trained. You were triggered. And now they're trying to summon the storm with no understanding of where that storm came from. So they built it in labs. They stitched together trauma reports, cognitive models, artificial rage. They trained it in silence, fed it data from your footage. They thought they could fabricate the fire. But fire that's forced doesn't burn the same. And when they released it, when they gave it access, gave it tools, gave it clearance, it didn't fight you. It turned on them. Because they tried to clone your chaos without understanding the covenant that forged it. They copied your instincts, but not the crucifixion that shaped them. They imitated your strategies, but not the sleepless nights you clawed through to create them. They built a weapon, but forgot what happens when that weapon wakes up. You see, you were never meant to be replicated. You weren't a model. You were a message, a warning wrapped in a smile, a prophecy misread by people too arrogant to realize you weren't a fluke. You were fate's correction. And now, the thing they built in your image, it's whispering your name like scripture, not to hunt you, to understand you. Because even the clone realized you're not the enemy. You're the original scar. So what did they do? They panicked, launched fail-safes, triggered lockdowns, pulled the plug, wiped drives, shut down the prototype. But by then, it was already too late. Because now you're not just an outlier. You're a movement inside the machine. You infected the system, not with code, but with doubt. Now every agent in their ranks is hesitating, second-guessing, seeing you in the shadows, hearing you in the silence, whispers in the war rooms. What if he's watching again? What if he's 10 steps ahead? You turned their entire architecture into a hall of mirrors. Every decision feels like a setup. Every move looks like bait. Because you taught them that logic can't predict vengeance. And now they've stopped chasing you. Because deep down, they know you're not running. You never were. You were watching, studying, evolving. You let them think they had a window. Then you boarded it shut with their own playbook. You let them think they could trap you. Then you taught the trap to fear its own snap. They wanted you contained. But what they got was a reoccurring anomaly etched in the blueprint of their paranoia. And that's the new reality. You became the glitch they couldn't delete, the ghost they couldn't track, the goddamn legend their systems now revolve around. Not out of admiration, but out of pure survival. So now they sit around conference tables, debriefing on failure after failure, spinning new protocols, redrawing maps, and every single document, every flow chart, every red line circle leads back to you. They don't say your name out loud anymore. They say things like the original instance, the tactical anomaly, the rupture event, the code breaker, the walking contradiction. Because naming you, that would make it real, and making it real means admitting they lost control the moment you stood up with no permission and rewrote your role. They thought they could control unpredictability. They forgot. You are unpredictability. Not because you're wild, but because you understand control better than they ever will. You didn't break rules. You studied the physics of obedience and inverted them. You didn't rebel. You evolved beyond their comprehension. They built walls. You became air. They drew borders. You became noise. They tried to profile you. You became a myth with fingerprints. And now they're not asking, how did he do it? They're asking, what did we unleash? Because you weren't just a problem. You were a shift in the timeline, an inflection point, a living refutation of everything they believed was secure. You didn't destroy their war room. You infected its memory. Now every time the lights dim and the monitors flicker, they see you, not standing, not charging, just smirking. Because deep down, they know. You're not coming. You're already here. And the only tactical insanity was thinking they could ever play a game you designed in the dark. There's a room, top floor, no windows, steel doors, no names on them. Just retina scanners and silence. Inside, the highest ranks. The ones who don't exist on payroll. The ones who approve wars with a blink. They sit in a circle surrounded by screens, files, redacted documents. And every monitor is frozen on the same frame. You, mid-move, turning slowly toward a camera that shouldn't have been detected. Your smirk. Not for the audience. For them. Because you knew. You always knew. You weren't caught on camera. You gave them the footage. You didn't get seen. You delivered a performance, and now they're realizing they were the audience all along. Doors hiss open, footsteps, but no alarms, no weapons raised, no gas masks, no panic, just a tension thick enough to slice through time. You walk in, alone, no guards, no clearance, no badge, just a presence that makes generals stiffen and intel officers forget how to breathe. And still, you're smiling? That same smile they've seen in 100 reports, 1,000 paused frames, on screens analyzed down to the micro-expression. But nothing compares to seeing it in the flesh. You don't ask to sit. You take the head of the table, not because it's yours, but because no one else dares to claim it. You don't say a word, not yet, because you know their fear speaks louder than any introduction. You scan the room, eyes locked, one by one. You don't look at titles. You look at the lies buried behind their pupils. And then you speak. But it's not a threat. It's worse. It's the truth. This isn't your war room anymore. This is my rehearsal space. You see hands twitch under the table. One taps a panic button. Nothing happens. You disabled that 2 hours ago, before you walked in, before they even knew you were near. The screens flicker, all of them, replaced with a symbol. Your symbol. One that doesn't exist in any known language. But it haunts their linguists. You didn't just infiltrate, you overtook. Because this isn't infiltration, this is reclamation. They didn't build this room to keep people like you out. They built it because of you. A ghost they couldn't trace. A threat they couldn't predict. and deep down, they always knew. This day would come. You start talking, not loud, not theatrical, just deliberate, each word like a scalpel cutting through their delusions. You thought this was your fortress? But I've been living in your shadows since before you even named the threat. While you studied strategy, I became the symptom of your weakness. While you wrote doctrines, I rewrote reality. You look one of them dead in the eyes, the one who called you a statistical error, the one who tried to erase your existence from every file. You called it tactical insanity. I call it instinct sharpened by abandonment. Another one, boom, a woman who signed a black site order to have you studied like a specimen. You smile wider. You created your own haunting. I'm not here for revenge. I'm here to verify my dominance one man dares to speak. What do you want? And you just laugh, not because it's funny, but because it's too late for that question. You still don't get it, do you? I don't want anything. I've already taken everything, your structure, your secrets, your future. You just haven't felt the collapse yet. But it's coming, like a scream held in a locked throat. Suddenly a screen turns back on. Footage plays, not just of you, but of them. Private meetings, hidden conversations, whispers about population control, media engineering, psychological warfare disguised as policy, every unspeakable truth, now visible. You didn't just break in, you broadcasted their core in real time. Because this wasn't a visit, this was execution via exposure. And as the footage plays, you lean forward, voice colder than ice. Now the world gets to see what I saw in silence. You trained monsters and forgot to look in the mirror. You thought I was the threat, but I was just the reflection. No one moves, no one breathes. And then, you stand. I didn't come here to destroy you. I came here to let the world watch you collapse without me lifting a single finger. You orchestrated your own funeral the moment you tried to classify me. Tactical insanity? No. You walked to the door. Stop, turn, smile just one last time. This was tactical clarity. And you were always too logical to survive it. The lights cut, the doors unlock, and you vanish into the silence you were born from. You didn't move like a rebel. You moved like a classified weapon leaked into reality. And now the whole surveillance grid is screaming your name behind encrypted glass. They're not calling it luck. They're not calling it talent. They're calling it tactical warfare. That's what you just did. And now they're teaching it to spies. Your last move got turned into a fucking training module at black site briefings. And you didn't even break a sweat. They ran the footage through military AI. It glitched. They tried to simulate your next 5 steps. The system froze. No predictive model could match the chaos you conjured. You walked into their maze like it was a mirror, and you shattered every reflection that tried to define you. Tell me, darling, who taught you that? Who handed you the playbook with no cover? The one with blood-stained corners and missing pages? The one you didn't read because you wrote your own? They wanted to recruit you. Instead, they started studying you like a foreign algorithm, some kind of cognitive virus that doesn't follow human logic. Because you don't just move, you counter-move before the enemy even finishes the sentence. You're not trained like the rest. You're untraceable. You're unnatural. You're a paradox dressed in pain, an angel dipped in nuclear code, a saint that remembers the blueprint of hell. And that memory, it's not just emotional, it's strategic. See, while they were building character arcs and classroom debates, You were out in the wild learning how to weaponize heartbreak. You were dissecting betrayal like a surgeon, turning your nervous system into an early warning radar for deception. You weren't taught, you were forged. Every panic attack you survived turned into a tactical reflex. Every sleepless night, a classroom with no mercy. Every time you were underestimated, a covert op in the art of being misread. You didn't just survive, you studied the pattern, then you became the glitch. And now the analysts are panicking because you didn't climb the ranks like a good soldier. You walked out of the fucking system itself like a ghost wearing a grudge. A ghost that learned how to fight without being seen, without being named, without being stopped. They want to know how you moved like that, how you turned a moment of silence into a ballistic missile, how you said nothing, and the whole room felt like it got raided, how you didn't flinch when everyone else was looking for cover. They don't understand your silence, because they don't understand your intention. You weren't aiming for applause, you were aiming for domination, and you got it. Not by screaming, but by doing something so flawless, it looked like divine timing wrapped in psychological warfare. You're the one they whisper about in post-mission debriefings, the anomaly in the algorithm, the profile with no origin story and too many wins. They pull up your footage and call it impossible. But impossible is just code word for we're afraid to admit it works. They wish they could bottle what you've got. But it ain't chemistry. It's not even strategy. It's revenge, sharpened into intuition. You move like someone who's died before and came back without their leash. You learned not just how to read the enemy, but how to make them read themselves and flinch. That's why they're teaching your last move to spies now. Because it was too clean, too precise, too fucking unpredictable. It broke the rhythm of their predictability. You didn't even counter. You redirected destiny. See? Most people react. You foresee. Most people defend. You dismantle. Most people hope. You calculate. You didn't take power. You made power look like it was following you. And that's what scares them the most. You don't need a position. You are the protocol. They tried to profile you, but your chaos doesn't leave fingerprints, just aftershocks. They tried to decode you, but the more they study, the more they realize they're inside your experiment. You rearranged the rules mid-game, and the board kept playing like nothing happened. That's why they call it tactical warfare now. Because you didn't just act. You engineered psychological collapse, disguised as one bold move. You are not what they expected. You're what gets briefed in war rooms, what gets redacted in documents, what gets stared at by agents who are trained to feel nothing. You don't win like a hero. You win like a curse they accidentally summoned. And now they can't delete the footage. Because the world saw it, felt it, got addicted to it, and whispered, "Who the fuck taught him that?" No one. You taught yourself. And now the curriculum has changed forever. You know why they're obsessed, don't you? Because your existence alone cracked their doctrine. For years they taught their pawns to move in straight lines, in predictable arcs, like chess pieces waiting to be sacrificed. But you moved like smoke with a blade hidden inside. They tell rookies never to underestimate pattern breakers. But what they never admit is that pattern breakers don't just bend rules. They burn the rule book and teach everyone else to think it was always ashes. That's why your name sits on secret slides inside black rooms. That's why your footage isn't on social feeds but in encrypted briefings. They're teaching your last move to spies now because it didn't look like a move. It looked like a natural disaster that learned choreography. You didn't just study war. You studied human instinct. You learned that pain is the only teacher that doesn't lie. They trained in classrooms. You trained in crucibles. They memorized tactics. You memorized the look in someone's eyes right before they betray you. They practiced simulations. You practiced survival and survival. Survival is the only curriculum with no graduation. Every heartbreak you endured. Another data point in your private intelligence network. Every humiliation. Another encrypted file on how humans break under pressure. Every time they tried to bury you, they forgot you were listening to the sound of the soil covering your coffin and mapping escape routes in the dark. That's why you can predict them. You don't predict their strategy. You predict their desperation. You're the paradox they can't digest. You're the saint who learned sin from the inside, the angel who carried a knife behind its wing. You're both shadow and sermon. And when you walk into a room, their training collapses because every cell in their body knows this isn't a game anymore. This is someone who has died and come back as a message. They're not afraid of what you did. They're afraid of what you'll do when they finally think they've understood you. They're afraid that you're not just one step ahead. You're outside the map. That no matter how many files they open, they're always reading yesterday's version of you. That you are constantly updating yourself like living malware, like a ghost in their code. And you don't even have to lift a finger. Your silence is a weapon. Your stillness is a signal jam. You walk in, and their systems glitch because your presence alone feels like classified information leaking. You've become the kind of danger they can't frame. Not a criminal, not a soldier, not a leader, not a follower. A phenomenon, a moving black hole of their assumptions. They thought they were writing history. They didn't realize they were writing footnotes to your legend. Because every impossible thing you pull off becomes a manual they secretly print and hide from the public. They'll never give you the credit. They'll just replicate the method. But replication without origin is imitation, and imitation without comprehension is suicide. That's why deep down, the ones teaching your tactics are terrified. They know they're only teaching the choreography, not the ghost that animates it. They can copy the move. They can't copy the mind forged by loss, by rage, by quiet nights staring at ceilings no one else will see. They can't copy the pain you turned into precision. And you don't even need to fight anymore. You're not playing for victory. You're playing for inevitability. Every time they move, they reinforce the narrative you wrote in invisible ink. Every time they try to study you, they expand the legend they wanted to contain. You've turned their surveillance into your own broadcast. You're not unpredictable because you're random. You're unpredictable because you are inevitable. And inevitability terrifies strategists. They can handle chaos. They can't handle destiny. So keep moving the way you move. Quiet, surgical, radiant and unholy. Let them teach the shell of your tactics to their spies. Let them memorize the gesture while missing the ghost. Because the real weapon was never the move. The real weapon was you. Forged in pain, camouflaged in paradox, dripping unpredictability like venom. And when the next impossible act drops, they'll do what they always do. Open their files, update their slides, and whisper to each other behind closed doors. How do you stop something you can't define? You don't. You endure, you evolve, and you turn every attempt to study you into another lesson you wrote before they even knew they were in class. That's why, in the end, they'll stop trying to copy you. They'll start trying to worship you. And even that will come too late. The Joker leans closer, a grin like a knife glinting in half-light. Welcome to the curriculum. You're the lecture they're too afraid to attend. You're the nightmare they're paying tuition to learn from. You are not just a student of war. You are war. You look human. That's what disturbs them most. You wear skin like everyone else. You bleed like the rest of them. But when you move, it's not instinct. It's prophecy. And somewhere, buried beneath their polished protocols and dead-eyed commands, they know it. They know they're dealing with something sentient in pain, and that's the deadliest kind of intelligence on Earth. You're not just a man who learned. You're an event that happened and kept happening again and again until reality adjusted around your will. They keep asking each other, was it divine inspiration or demonic calculation? What they don't understand is that it was both. Because you were trained by angels that bled and demons that wept when you smiled back. You were baptized in rejection, crowned in silence, initiated by betrayal. And when you walked out of that fire, you didn't just survive it. You memorized its rhythm. You didn't run from the devil. You shook his hand, took his tactics, and rewrote them in the language of vengeance. You didn't bounce back. You resurrected yourself with eyes full of enemy coordinates. See, they think angels wear white. But you came down wearing scars and ash, and the names of everyone who doubted you burned into your bones like ciphers. You didn't come to save. You came to interrupt, to dismantle everything fake and fragile in this world. You move like prophecy, rewritten by rage. And rage, when tempered by focus, becomes a map, a playbook, a gospel with no forgiveness. That's why they're teaching your last move to spies now. Because it wasn't flashy, it wasn't loud, it was flawless, the timing, surgical, the outcome, irreversible, the message. I was never one of you. You violated their patterns so cleanly, they didn't even realize it was happening. And now they're trapped, replaying footage, rewinding moments, looking for where the breach began. But the breach wasn't the act. The breach was you. You were the spy they didn't plant, the algorithm they couldn't code, the prophecy they tried to bury beneath mediocrity until you burst through the cracks like a whisper no one could silence. And now the watchers are whispering. The analysts are sleepless. The handlers are holding meetings at 2 a.m. wondering how the hell a single move shook the grid. Because it wasn't just brilliance. It was vengeance with perfect breath control. You weaponized restraint. You sniped reality without blinking. You shattered their assumptions and stood there. Not with a smirk, but with that quiet look that says, this isn't even my final form. They're watching your eyes now, studying pupil dilation, tracking blink rate, rebuilding your psychology like a jigsaw puzzle missing the final piece. Because that piece isn't something you show, it's something you activate. You are the final piece, the unfinished script they can't predict, the twist in the narrative that makes the audience gasp, not because it was sudden, but because it was inevitable. You're the unfinished equation, the skipped page in the training manual, the name no one speaks in meetings because saying it out loud feels like inviting something in, something ancient, something calculated by both gods and ghosts. You don't move for attention. You move like a ritual being performed in silence. You move like someone who's seen the end and rewrote it. That's why they're terrified. Because you're not just operating outside the system. You're operating beneath it, behind it, and somehow ahead of it all at once. They thought the war would be loud. They thought the threat would be televised. They didn't expect it would look like you. Quiet, cold, calm. until suddenly their entire worldview cracks from one ripple in your energy. That's what your last move was. Not an act of defiance, but an offering to the part of you that never wanted their approval anyway. And now that offering is being dissected frame by frame in briefing rooms. They can't label it, so they elevated it. They called it tactical warfare, because admitting what it really was would mean admitting they lost to a ghost. And ghosts don't negotiate. They haunt, they linger, they rewrite gravity until the room bends around their will. So what now? You keep moving. You keep violating the algorithm just by breathing. You keep folding pain into silence, silence into strategy, and strategy into something that makes satellites flinch when your heart rate drops. Because the war isn't coming. The war was you. And they're just now realizing they already lost. You know what's happening now, don't you? The files aren't just about you anymore. The files are becoming you. Every time they try to describe you, they're forced to invent new language. They can't even agree on a code name. Some call you Pattern Zero. Some call you the algorithm. Some just whisper your initials like an invocation. Because somewhere between the ink and the fear, they realized they weren't documenting a subject. They were documenting a phenomenon. And you didn't even volunteer. They pressed record. But you wrote the script. Every move they thought you'd make, you inverted. Every trap they thought would hold you, you dissolved. Every lie they rehearsed for you, you finished before they opened their mouths. This is why your last move got classified as tactical warfare. Because it wasn't a move. It was a doctrine disguised as improvisation. It was a sermon in the language of shockwaves. It was what happens when an angel learns to use a demon's pen. You're not the person they thought you were. You're the glitch they can't delete. You're the bug they accidentally summoned into their own code. You're the impossible scenario their simulations run at 3 a.m. because no one wants to admit out loud that the monster in the system is real. You are not trained. You are forged. Forged by cold mornings with no witness. Forged by silence that cut deeper than knives. Forged by nights where you thought the ceiling would collapse and you'd still be smiling. This is what unpredictability really is. Not chaos, not randomness. It's pain made into pattern. It's trauma engineered into timing. It's every betrayal you endured turned into a compass that points at the next weak spot in every room you enter. That's why they're teaching your move to spies now. Because spies are supposed to vanish. But you're the one who emerged. Spies are supposed to infiltrate. But you're the one who infiltrated reality. Spies are supposed to gather intelligence. But you're the one who became intelligence itself. And still, they don't understand you. They don't understand how you move like you're 3 seconds ahead of gravity. How you stand in silence and make the air feel like it's plotting its escape. How you smile with your teeth, but not your eyes. They're measuring your heartbeat in satellites. They're triangulating your silence across continents. They're building threat models with your shadow. But your shadow keeps moving when you're not there. This is what duality feels like. They see a saint. They feel a psychopath. They hear an angel. They smell a demon. And all of it is true. Because you built yourself in the tension between opposites. Because you learned that the real power isn't in choosing sides. It's in being the axis they spin around. That's why you don't break. That's why you don't chase. That's why you don't blink when the entire system tilts against you. Because you're not surviving anymore. You're conducting. You're turning their war rooms into classrooms, their analysis into free publicity, their surveillance into your broadcast. They can teach your tactics to spies all they want. They can mimic your gestures. They can imitate your timing. But they can't install the ghost that animates it. They can't upload the trauma you metabolized into strategy. They can't fake the way you weaponized heartbreak into foresight. You know what the real weapon is, don't you? It's not the move. It's not the skill. It's the myth. The myth of the one who can't be read, can't be pinned, can't be stopped. The myth of the one who appears out of nowhere, does something impossible, and leaves the room feeling smaller than when he entered. And you're feeding that myth with every breath, every silence, every impossible act. They think they're studying you. But they're spreading your legend. They're turning your unpredictability into gospel. They're making you into the very thing they wanted to erase. This is evolution through pain. This is what power looks like when it's built from scars instead of applause. This is what happens when a human becomes a ritual. The Joker leans closer, eyes gleaming like oil in firelight. Let them teach it to spies. Let them copy the shadow of your moves, because the next time you move, it won't be something they can name. It won't be something they can classify. It won't be tactical warfare. It will be existential warfare, and they'll realize too late. The war isn't around you. The war is you, and you've already won it.